Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Garden Fever. Just wanted to do a quick episode. We're having some late freezes in Utah. Everybody's been covering their tomato plants and everything, so we're having a hard time getting our summer crops off to the races, if you will. But I want to do a quick episode on this. That is animal manure. And there's lots of. Go online and there's tons of debates and everything on whether or not you should use animal feces as a fertilizer. Now, one thing I can tell you for sure, that animal feces definitely does fertilize the soil. Some people are not down for it, some people are. So I wanted to give kind of my perspective on it, and I do use some. And the reason why I use some is because I know where it comes from. I happen to know this chicken poop. I happen to know the owner of these chickens. I know what they feed them. I know what their grazing patterns are. I'm well aware of what the chickens are eating and how the chickens are being treated. And so I don't mind using this particular manure. The store-bought manures and other manures, I do tend to lean away from. And it's not because I'm anti-use it. Some people say that in nature there's not a lot of animal poop fertilizing the soil. I think it does a little bit. It's probably not the #1 source. I think decomposing plants and other things like that are probably the biggest contributors. And for me personally, I think that's where you should put most of your energy when it comes to fertilizer, like wood chipping and mulching and mixing in additives into your soil, such as like coconut coir. I will do worm castings. I think worm castings are very healthy. But a lot of people will refrain from the manures because you don't know where it came from. And I understand that. If you don't know what fields they're grazing in, what weeds that they're going to be pooping out, what seeds, And a lot of the seeds die in the stomach acids, but not all of them. You can transfer weeds that way. So in short, in a lot of the cattle farms and stuff, there's tons and tons of animals grazing on certain fields, and they're all, if you've ever visited a huge cattle farm, the first thing you're going to smell is their poop. There's tons and tons of it, and it releases methane gas, and it creates some funky bacteria and stuff. It ain't all bad, but it's not all good either. So when you buy manures from a source that you don't know where it came from, it makes me nervous. So I have a friend, and I want to thank you, Damon, who runs his chickens, and he has a similar philosophical point of view when it comes to gardening. Not 100% the same, but I know what he feeds his chickens. I know this is from his baby chickens, so there's not a whole lot of weeds in it. And so he knows that I'm like that. And so when he cleans out their cages, the babies, not the adults, because the adults are free range, and he lets them roam around and eat weeds and various things. And you don't know if those weeds have pesticides in them, as another example of why I fear manures sometimes. So he'll clean them out, and he'll fertilize his garden, and then what's left over he'll give it to me. So I'm very thankful because I got all this nice manure. This is 1 bucket, but he actually gave me I think it was 6 buckets, and there's more coming. So I have a lot of fertilizer this year on top of my mulch, on top of my compost, and that's what I'm going to use this year to fertilize my stuff. And that's a constant problem in gardening. And for those of you who are just getting into gardening, one of the problems the world faces about farming over and over and over, the land, planting crops, harvesting, tilling them, replanting next year over and over and over and over, is a breakdown in the nutrients in the soil. So the key to it, and I don't think a whole lot of people out there will argue with me, maybe some, but there's always some. But I think the #1 most important thing that a gardener needs to learn if you're going to get into gardening, and all the seasoned gardeners will most likely agree with me on this, is you've got to have healthy soil. You've got to have good nutrient-rich soil. It is imperative. And in order to do that, you have to put energy back into the soil. You got to put nutrients, and there's a wide variety of ways to do that. Manure is one of them. I would not rely solely on that only. I think variety is the best way. If you know, like, let's say, here's an example to kind of give you an example of what I'm talking about. But let's say apples are healthy. But if you just eat apples every day, all the time, 24 hours a day, just eat apples, they become bad for you. In fact, that you can actually die from eating too many apples. There's, I believe it's vitamin A that's in apples. And if you have too much of that, it can be harmful to you. And I think that goes true to most organisms, most living things on the planet. If you have a diversity of things and an abundant supply of nutrients that's abound, you're going to be a lot more successful. So if you put only one type of fertilizer, and that's the only way you're putting energy and putting energy back into your soil, it will work, but it's not going to be as effective as if you have a diversity. So the more things you can return back to your soils, the better. And the goal is to get on top of it, to get ahead of it, so that there's more than enough nutrients for your plants to eat, so you're not depleting all the nutrients. And that's where crop rotation and various things like that come into play, because it gives the soil a chance to heal. After your plants eat the nutrients there through a growing season, it needs a chance to replenish that nutrients. And so you want to get ahead of that, to where you have not just enough for the plant that season, but enough for multiple seasons, where if you stop fertilizing all of a sudden, you can grow several years before you start seeing the effects of the nutrient depletion. So anyway, I don't want to drag on too long. I'm sorry I don't have as many plants to show you. It's May, I don't even know, May 20th I think now, and if you zoom over to this house over here, there's frost on it. We have frost and it's going to be June, so we have cold weather crops. Like, I've got peas here, I got some kale, cabbage, some chard, lettuce, spinach, onions, those kind of things, but no tomatoes, no squashes, no cucumbers, none of the stuff that that is more enjoyable, if you will. I like the greens, I do. They're very, very nutritious and healthy for you, don't get me wrong, but the tomatoes, the peppers, I can't wait to grow some peppers. It's on delay here in northern Utah. I don't know if you can see my breath, but for being close to June, we're normally like 90 to 100 degrees at this point. We're approaching it. And I think let me check. I'm curious. Let's look here. According to my little weather app, it's 40 degrees out here right now. And that's with the sun starting to come out. So we're reaching 40 degrees at the end of May. So if that gives you any idea. But anyway, I got to spread this and get some of this manure in. So I'm going to let you go, but I just want to make a short video talking about the manures. In short, if you don't know where it is, I'm cautious. That's my advice. If you don't give a damn, then by all means, do what you want. But I'm usually cautious on the manures unless I know where it's coming from, what the animals are being fed, and what, if they're living in motor oil and pesticides, and then I might not want to spread the manure around. But given the fact that I do know where this is from and I do know the habits, I feel pretty confident that this manure will add nutrients to my soil, and with minimal, if none, negative effects. So anyway, I'll let you go for now, but we'll be back.